Nancy and I send our warmest congratulations on this tribute and our best wishes to everyone there.
Have you ever wondered what was really happening behind the dazzling lights of Hollywood's golden age? From the 1920s to the 1950s, studios crafted perfect images for their stars. But behind closed doors, many were forced into lavender marriages, carefully staged unions designed to hide their true identities. Let's uncover the truth. Back then, being anything but straight in Hollywood wasn't just risky, it was a career-ending secret. Society had strong rules, and breaking them could result in losing everything. You might expect that the entertainment world, filled with artists and creative minds, would be more accepting. However, Hollywood has been very harsh. Studios aim to safeguard their investments. If it meant managing their stars' personal lives, they were quick to do it. Actors didn't just perform parts in films, they lived those roles in real life as well. Falling in love with the wrong person can ruin everything. Jobs, identities, and even friendships can disappear quickly. To maintain appearances, lavender marriages were used as an option. These weren't love stories, they were business agreements meant to show fans, the media, and movie execs that the stars were just as they should be. Then the Hays Code was introduced, which was a strict set of rules for Hollywood that banned anything considered unacceptable, including any suggestion of homosexuality. What happened to the stars that didn't belong? They concealed themselves. Their most important contributions happened behind the scenes. Now let's talk about some of the most famous lavender marriages in Hollywood history. We'll start off the list with Rudolph Valentino and Jean Acker. Rudolph Valentino was more than just a famous actor. He was a remarkable sensation. With his dark, brooding looks and smoldering personality, he set Hollywood on fire in the 1920s. Women loved his every action in The Shake and Blood and Sand, making him the perfect romance hero. However, things weren't as good as they looked behind the scenes. At a time when being a man was often based on strict stereotypes, Valentino stood out as a unique kind of Maine man. Some people thought his charm, ease, and the way he held himself were too polished and gentle. In Hollywood, where looks mattered the most, rumors began to spread. Was he really the passionate lover that films showed him as? Or was he hiding something? Next was Jean Acker. She was a silent film actress who was beautiful, skilled, and well-known in Hollywood. When she and Valentino announced their marriage in 1919, it appeared to be a great match. But what happened next made their wedding one of the weirdest stories in Hollywood history. On their wedding night, as Valentino excitedly went to their honeymoon room, Acker locked the door. She shut him out, literally. The man famous for his emotional love scenes in films stood outside, knocking on the door, feeling confused and embarrassed. The marriage ended before it started. People talked quietly. They guessed. Why might a woman say no to her husband on their wedding night? Why did Acker seem so unconcerned about their broken marriage? What's the truth? Valentino and Acker were said to be in same-sex relationships. People in Hollywood knew, but the public had to remain unaware. People whispered. They speculated. Why would a bride refuse her husband on their wedding night? And why did Acker seem so indifferent about their failed marriage? The truth? Both Valentino and Acker were rumored to be involved in same-sex relationships. Hollywood insiders knew, but the public had to be kept in the dark. The marriage was quickly annulled, but the damage was done. Valentino's name was now tangled in rumors, and the press went wild. He later married Natasha Rambova, a designer and screenwriter, in another marriage that people questioned. Was this true love or just another arrangement to keep suspicions away? Valentino couldn't escape the speculation. The more successful he became, the more the tabloids latched onto the idea that he wasn't the heartthrob he played on screen. Some critics called him too feminine, too elegant, not manly enough. It was insulting, and Valentino had enough. In one of the most bizarre moments in Hollywood history, Valentino challenged a journalist to a boxing match. He was tired of being called effeminate and wanted to prove he was just as tough as any man. The fight didn't happen, but the moment itself showed how much the rumors had gotten to him. Despite the gossip, Valentino's career kept soaring. He was adored by fans, loved by audiences, and hailed as Hollywood's greatest lover. But behind the fame, there was always the lingering question: who was the real Valentino? The answer, like so many others in old Hollywood, was buried beneath carefully controlled headlines and a legacy that only told part of the story. And that was just the beginning. Up next, another Hollywood star whose marriage wasn't what it seemed, Rock Hudson. Rock Hudson had it all: the looks, the charm, the perfect leading man image. He wasn't just a movie star, he was the movie star. Whether he was sweeping Doris Day off her feet in Pillow Talk or commanding the screen in Giant, he made romance look effortless. Women adored him, men wanted to be him, but behind the dazzling smile and the Hollywood dream, Rock Hudson was hiding a secret that could have destroyed everything. In 1950s Hollywood, being gay wasn't just a career risk. It was a death sentence for any leading man. Studios built their stars from the ground up, carefully curating their public personas. And for Hudson, that meant being America's ultimate heartthrob. He was placed in the spotlight as a real man's man, the kind who fell in love with beautiful women and lived the picture-perfect American dream. The truth? That image was entirely manufactured. Then came Phyllis Gates. She wasn't a famous actress or a Hollywood socialite. She was Hudson's agent's secretary, and in 1955 she became his wife. But this wasn't some whirlwind love affair. It was a desperate move, one orchestrated behind the scenes by Universal Studios. The rumors about Hudson's sexuality were growing louder, and the studio had to act fast. So they staged a marriage. For the public, it was the perfect story. Hudson, the most eligible bachelor in Hollywood, had finally found his bride. The press loved it. Fans believed it. The problem? It wasn't real. Gates later claimed she had no idea Hudson was gay when they married, but many believe she knew exactly what was happening. Whether she was a willing participant or just caught in the middle, the marriage lasted only 3 years before ending in divorce. And just like that, Phyllis Gates faded from the picture. But the whispers never stopped. Hudson's name was always surrounded by speculation. He never remarried. He never had high-profile relationships with women. And Hollywood insiders knew why. He had a secret life, a life that could never be acknowledged. For decades, Hudson continued his career, dodging questions, keeping his truth hidden. But then, in 1985, everything changed. The world was shocked when Hudson revealed he had AIDS. He was the first major celebrity to make the announcement, and overnight, the perfect Hollywood fantasy shattered. The news confirmed what many had already suspected. Rock Hudson wasn't the man the studios had sold to America. He had been playing a role he never wanted. And by the time the truth came out, it was too late to rewrite the script. And just like that, another Hollywood illusion was exposed. But Rock Hudson wasn't alone. Up next, another star whose marriage wasn't what it seemed. Janet Gaynor wasn't just a movie star, she was Hollywood royalty. She was the first ever winner of the Best Actress Oscar, a silent film legend, and an actress whose delicate beauty and heartfelt performances captivated audiences. With classics like Seventh Heaven and A Star is Born, she became one of the most beloved faces of early cinema. But like many stars of her era, her personal life wasn't as picture-perfect as Hollywood wanted people to believe. Then there was Adrian, a name just as legendary, though not for acting. If you've ever admired Dorothy's ruby slippers in The Wizard of Oz or Joan Crawford's famous shoulder-padded gowns, you've seen his genius. Adrian was MGM's top costume designer, responsible for dressing the biggest stars of the era and shaping the glamour of classic Hollywood fashion. He was a visionary in his field, but beneath all that talent and success, both Gaynor and Adrian had secrets they needed to hide. For years, whispers surrounded Gaynor's close friendship with actress Mary Martin. Insiders believed the two were much more than just friends, but in Hollywood, a rumor like that could end careers. Meanwhile, Adrian, whose world was filled with beauty, art, and fashion, was rumored to have his own romantic interests in men. But being openly gay in the 1930s, that wasn't an option. So in 1939, Janet Gaynor and Adrian got married. To the public, it was a Hollywood fairy tale, a glamorous, Oscar-winning actress and a world-renowned designer, a power couple that oozed sophistication. The media loved it, and the marriage silenced any speculation about both their personal lives. But those who knew them personally weren't fooled. Hollywood insiders saw it for what it was, a business arrangement, not a love story. The marriage was mutually beneficial. For Gaynor, it meant her career remained untouchable, free from scandal. For Adrian, it provided a respectable cover, shielding him from the harsh realities of being a gay man in Hollywood's most rigid era. Together, they maintained an illusion of the perfect couple, one that kept both of them safe from the scrutiny that had ruined so many before them. Unlike other Lavender marriages that fell apart quickly, Gaynor and Adrian stayed together for 2 decades. There were no public fights, no scandals, no controversies. Just 2 Hollywood legends playing their roles convincingly, both on-screen and off. In 1959, Adrian passed away, and with his death, the Hollywood illusion they had built together quietly faded. But Gaynor's story was far from unique. There were more secrets, more staged marriages, and more stars hiding behind perfectly curated facades. And up next, another name that kept the world guessing. Cary Grant wasn't just a star, he was the definition of Hollywood charm. With his smooth accent, effortless wit, and undeniable charisma, he ruled the silver screen in classics like North by Northwest and Bringing Up Baby. He was the ultimate leading man, effortlessly romantic, endlessly charismatic, and admired by both men and women. But while audiences adored his on-screen love affairs, his real-life relationships were far more complicated. Enter Randolph Scott, another Hollywood heartthrob known for his rugged Western roles and all-American good looks. But it wasn't their films that had people talking. It was their living arrangement. For over a decade, Grant and Scott shared a home, a grand mansion they jokingly called Bachelor Hall. They threw lavish parties, were photographed lounging around their home together, and had a friendship that seemed a little too perfect. The press called them Hollywood's most eligible bachelors, but behind the scenes, rumors swirled. Was this just a deep friendship, or was there something more? In an era where being openly gay could end careers overnight, Grant followed Hollywood's rules. He married 5 women throughout his lifetime, including actress Diane Cannon, who later wrote about their troubled relationship. Their marriage was short-lived, and even after they divorced, the whispers never stopped. Some believed Grant's relationships with women were simply for show, orchestrated by studios to keep his reputation intact. Hollywood had a way of crafting stories, and if a leading man's love life didn't fit the script, the studio would rewrite it for them. Grant, however, never publicly addressed the rumors. He never confirmed them, never denied them. He simply let Hollywood tell the version of his story it wanted to tell. Despite the marriages, despite the rumors, his connection with Randolph Scott remained unique. They never fully severed ties, even as they moved on with their separate lives. In an industry where everything was carefully constructed, their bond stood out, lasting long after they both stopped living together. Some say Cary Grant's greatest performance wasn't in front of the camera, but in front of the world, playing a role that Hollywood needed him to play. And he wasn't the only leading man forced to hide behind a Hollywood-approved romance. There's Tyrone Power. Tyrone Power wasn't just a star. He was Hollywood's ultimate romantic hero. Whether he was swashbuckling his way through The Mark of Zorro or delivering a gripping performance in Witness for the Prosecution, he had the charm, the talent, and the undeniable presence that made him one of the most sought-after leading men of his time. He was the perfect matinee idol, with legions of female fans swooning over his every move. But as much as Hollywood loved to market him as the ideal heartthrob, his real-life love story was far from the fantasy the studios created. For years, whispers followed Power everywhere. In Hollywood, the rumor mill never stopped turning, and when it came to Power's personal life, speculation was constant. Was he bisexual? Was his status as a ladies' man just an elaborate illusion? Those in Hollywood's inner circle had their suspicions. Some called it an open secret, one that was carefully managed and hidden from the public eye. But in the 1930s and 1940s, being anything other than a traditional leading man with a female love interest was unacceptable. A single scandal could destroy a career overnight. Power's reputation as Hollywood's most desirable leading man had to remain intact. So in 1939, Hollywood had an answer, whether it was true or not. That answer came in the form of Annabella, a talented and stunning French actress. To fans, their marriage was straight out of a Hollywood love story. A dashing leading man and a sophisticated European beauty, together against all odds. It was perfect. Or was it? The truth. Their marriage was more about appearances than passion. Power needed to uphold his carefully curated image, and Annabella, whether she was aware of it or not, helped him do just that. With a wife by his side, Power kept the rumors under control, ensuring that his public persona remained untarnished. But Hollywood insiders weren't fooled. Behind the scenes, Power's name was constantly linked to men. One name in particular stood out: Cesar Romero, another Hollywood heartthrob. The two were rumored to be extremely close, fueling speculation that Power's real love story had nothing to do with Annabella at all. By 1948, the marriage had run its course. Annabella moved on, and Power? He remarried, had children, and continued his career, but the whispers never faded. And he wasn't alone. Another Hollywood star was about to take a similar path. Ramon Novarro was Hollywood's original Latin lover. Before actors like Antonio Banderas and Pedro Pascal ever graced the screen, Novarro was the heartthrob of the silent film era. With his dark eyes, striking features, and effortless charm, he became one of MGM's biggest stars, drawing audiences in with his unforgettable performance in Ben-Hur, 1925. He was idolized, adored, and carefully marketed as a symbol of Hollywood romance. But behind the polished image, Novarro's real love story was one Hollywood would never let him tell. Unlike many of his peers, Novarro never entered a Lavender marriage. He refused to fake relationships with women for the sake of appearances. While other stars were forced into marriages to keep rumors at bay, Novarro remained single, a rare decision for a leading man of his era. But this choice came at a cost. Hollywood had no place for an openly gay actor in the 1920s, and Novarro knew that. Studios controlled every aspect of their stars' lives, and if an actor didn't fit into their perfect mold, they were either erased or forced into a lie. MGM executives worked overtime to keep Novarro's private life hidden. Any whispers of his sexuality were buried, denied, or spun into false narratives to protect his box office appeal. To the world, he was simply a mysterious bachelor, still waiting for the right woman. But behind the scenes, Novarro lived in secrecy, carefully navigating a world that would never accept him. He had relationships, but they were always in the shadows. He couldn't be seen with the people he truly loved, couldn't share his real life with the public, and lived under the constant fear that one slip-up could destroy his career. And as the years went on, Hollywood changed, but not enough for Novarro to ever live freely. Then came his tragic end. By the 1960s, Novarro had faded from the public eye. He was no longer the box office giant he had once been, but he remained a well-known figure in Hollywood. Then, in 1968, everything came crashing down. At the age of 69, Novarro was murdered in his own home, and what happened next turned his private life into a public scandal. Two brothers, Paul and Tom Ferguson, had been invited to his house for companionship. But the night took a dark turn. The brothers, believing Novarro had large sums of money hidden in his home, beat him to death in a robbery gone wrong. The murder was brutal, senseless, and shocking, but what made it worse was how the media chose to report it. Instead of focusing on the tragedy, the press fixated on Novarro's personal life, turning his murder into a tabloid frenzy. Headlines sensationalized the story, making his sexuality the focal point rather than the crime itself. The same Hollywood that had forced him to hide now exposed his secrets in the most cruel way possible. The Ferguson brothers were caught and convicted, but the damage was already done. Novarro's life, his work, and his legacy were now overshadowed by the gruesome details of his death. But the truth is, Ramon Novarro was more than the way his story ended. He was a pioneer of silent film, a man who refused to live a lie, and one of many stars forced to sacrifice their happiness for Hollywood's illusions. And like so many others, his story is a reminder of the hidden struggles that defined the golden age of Hollywood. And that was just a glimpse into the secret world behind old Hollywood's perfect facade. And there you have. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more captivating stories. Click on the next video popping up on your screen. You won't want to miss what's coming next.